Hello everyone, my name is Prodesilaos, also known as Prod. In this video, I want to show you how to start using org mode to maintain your task list in Emacs. The idea is to write tasks in an org file and then to use the org agenda views to display those tasks and to filter them accordingly. What I'm about to show you here is a simple workflow. Emacs gives you lots of options. There are many possibilities on how to do this sort of thing, but it's easy to get lost in the vastness of these options and to get distracted along the way. I want to give you something basic, something that will keep you focused on the tasks, something that will work, and something that you can eventually build up into a more comprehensive workflow. But you go from the simple to the complex. You don't go the other way because that is difficult. Let's start then with a plain org file. There is nothing here. We are starting now. It's a new file. And the idea is we want to write the tasks by hand. Of course, there are ways to streamline this, but that's the subject of another video. That's more involved. Let's start then with the basic task of editing the file. So what we want to do is, we want to write a heading. This is a heading. And the idea with how this works is that org will treat any heading as a task if it has a keyword as a prefix over here. For example, like this, it now is a task. And the text of the heading is the description of the task. For example, do a video about org tasks, this sort of thing. After the heading, you can put a tag. So like this, a tag is a word that is enclosed, it's wrapped between the colon signs. So we have colon, the word colon, and this is a tag. And if you want to have two or more tags, you do it like this. So you have the outer colons and then the colon as the word delimiter, and then you have the tags like this. So I will save my file. This has successfully created the first task, and we will see more about this. Let's go now to the next line and let's write another task, which will be about some bigger project, which is, let's say, infrastructure work. And this is at home. And now, because this has subtasks, actually, let me remove the to do from here. This has subtasks. I want to record the subtasks as subheadings. And we do this by writing a heading level 2. And then, of course, there can be level 3 and so on for the subtasks. So let's say that I want to plant the oak tree, and I want to do that. And then I have another task, which is flatten the land. And then I have another task, which is reinforce the side adjacent to the stream, and this sort of thing. Okay, so now I have written a task over here, which is basically a project. So it's a task with subtasks like this, whereas this one over here is a standalone task. When you have tasks with subtasks, you can go before the tags here, and you can put inside of square brackets the forward slash or the percentage sign. And what this means is that now your task will show the progress of where it is. So you write this, and then over one of those, you do Control C, Control C. And org will go through the subheadings and figure out how many of these remain to be done out of the total. So you have done 0 out of 3. This is what it is telling me now, 0%. here, these indicators, these counters, you can use both of them or you can use either of them. It doesn't really matter. In my case here, just for the demo, I have both of them here. And let's go and create another task over here. Let's say that I am meeting with someone. Let's say I am meeting with Atlas, and this is for work. This is the idea. So now I have already written some tasks, and my file is starting to get large, right? It's starting to get long. And if I have too many tasks, I won't be able to make any sense of this at some point. It will be a long list of to-dos and I won't be able to find anything. So at this point, let's use the first org agenda view to start making sense of our tasks. So I will do Emacs org agenda. You see it over here. Org agenda by default is not bound to a key. I have bound it to this key that you see inside of parentheses, but you can bind it to Control C and lowercase a, for example. I have it uppercase because I use another command on the lowercase. So let's do Emacs org agenda. And when we invoke this command, org will produce this selection window over here where it has the name of, or rather a key, the key that it has, and the description of what agenda view corresponds to that key. So we can see the letter A corresponds to the weekly or daily view, and then there are many others. The one that I will show you now is lowercase m, which is to match a tags or property or to-do query. So let's type the letter M, and what it is giving me here is the option to match one among those tags over here. So let's say that I am interested in my home tasks. So let's hit enter. And we see now that it has listed here a total of 4 tasks. Let me go back to my file over here. We see here that there is actually one heading with the tag home. The subheadings here do not have this tag explicitly, but they do have it implicitly by virtue of inheriting it from the parent. So you can use this to your advantage whenever you do this kind of thing where you have subtasks that contribute to the bigger task, the bigger project. You can tag them like this. So you don't need to go through each task and tag it with the same set of tags. You tag them all by virtue of inheritance. So let's go back to our headline view here, and we will see here that it has listed all the headings that have the home tag. You will notice here on this the right-hand side that it lists the tags here. And this heading that I am now focused on has the tag inside of single columns. So there is one on either side. Whereas the subtasks here have a double colon on the right-hand side. And this is a perhaps obscure way of informing you that these headings have inherited these tags. Any tag that is to the right hand of the double colon is inherited. Let's see this in practice. Let me go back to my file over here. So let's say that it is home and hut so that it's easier for us to see, okay? And here, let's say that this is about reforestation, okay? And yeah, let's actually do this again, reforestation. And here it's about flood control. Okay, so we have this thing over here. Okay, so now let me generate the agenda again. So let's search again for home over here. And we see now what I mentioned about the double colon. Anything that is to the right of the double colon is the inherited set of tags. And anything to the right is the inherent, so that which is germane to the heading and not which is implicit to it. So this is the idea. Did I say left hand? If I said right hand, I meant left hand. So anyway, the point is that this is the way for you to tell what is inherited, what is inherent. This is the idea. So when we are in an agenda view like this, we can actually visit the heading, and we can do it in either of two ways. We can hit tab, and this will have the effect of opening the file and visiting the heading in the other window. Like I was here and it created another window to display this information. Let me dismiss this now. The other option instead of tab is to hit enter, and what that will do is it will open it in the current window. So depending on what you are doing, you want to do enter or tab. Me, usually I do tab, and the reason for that is because if I am in the agenda view, chances are that I am doing something on more than one task. So I need to be able to keep the keep the tasks view, the agenda view open, and then do some review of the source of the actual file here. Now, why would you want to visit the file? If the task is here, right, why do you want to visit the file? You want to do that because org is not just about headings. You can write below the heading, you can write some text, and you can explain what this is about. And you can write anything you want here. So this is ordinary paragraph text. This is the idea, and you can keep going. You can write the story of your life. Make use of this so that you don't have to have super long headings. You don't need the heading to explain everything. Keep it short, keep it to the point so that your agenda views are clean. They are not overwhelmingly verbose. And then when you need to get more information, visit the heading and read the paragraphs below the heading to figure out what this is. And of course, as you may already know, the whole point of using org is that you can fold the headings, and so you have this nice, neat presentation over here. So let's get here to the agenda view. We have an agenda view, and now we have lots of tasks. And while they are all related to home, we may still want to limit them further. And we can do that at any point in any agenda view with the / command, which we see calls the org agenda filter. We see it here on my mode line, thanks to the KeyCast package by Jonas Bernoulli. When you are filtering now, you can write the name of a tag. For example, let's say that I am interested in flood control, okay? So I will do flood control like this, enter, and now what it has done, it has matched the files which were home, tagged with home, and filtered for the tags which include flood control. So now I only have one. Let's do the / again, and we see that flood control is over there. If we remove this and hit enter, we remove the filter, we remove the restriction, so we are again in the agenda view that shows us all the tasks that match the original query. Let's do this again. Sorry, let's do this the / again. And you will notice, if you pay attention there to the prompt, that you can do more than just input a word. You can do plus or minus, and you can combine those. So let's say I want to do minus the hat. So okay, sorry, that was a bad example because minus the hat means minus everything. So let's do minus the reforestation. Reforestation. Why didn't it find it? So we do that, and now we see only the tasks that are matching our criteria, namely the tasks which are tagged as home and which do not include reforestation. Let's get back to our file here. So I don't need to belabor the point. You get the idea with filtering. So you want to tag your entries in a smart way. Do it by heading like this so that the subheadings will get the inherited tags so you don't have to repeat yourself the whole time. Let's see, though, something else. Um, what we have here thus far is just tasks. They don't have any date associated with them. So these are kind of wish list items because I can do them today, I can do them tomorrow, I can do them in 1 year. They don't have any time sensitivity to them. But of course, in real life, there are many things we do which are time sensitive. So, for example, in my meeting here with Atlas, this is a meeting, it will happen at some point in time. It cannot be just whenever I wish or Atlas wishes. So it has to be at some point in time. Therefore, what I will do is I will place my cursor on the heading and I will do Emacs org and then schedule. And you will see here the key binding inside of parentheses, Control C, Control S. But don't worry about the key bindings. Org schedule is the way to go. Emacs org schedule. And when you do that, org will present a mini buffer here, and together with it will be this calendar view. What you can do now here is you can input a date and you can input a time as well. And there are lots of ways to do this. For example, you can do plus 3D, which means 3 days from today. And you will see in this differently colored area over here, you see the resolution of your input. So what you have typed, what it is calculated to. So 3D plus 3D means that today is the 16th plus 3 days, so the 19th, which is a Sunday. That kind of thing. So let's leave it like that for now. You can also do shift and the arrow keys, which is what I normally do, and you can pick a date in the calendar like this. So for example, let's say that this is for tomorrow, and you will see the differently colored area next to the mode line, next to the, sorry, to the prompt, to the mini buffer prompt, where it has understood that this is the 17th of January and it's a Friday. And what you can do in addition to the date is that you can input a time, so hour and minute. So let's say, for example, this is 10 a.m. And you will see that it is understood as 10 over there. If I do PM, it's understood with the 24-hour clock, so it's the 22 hours. And of course, you can do something like this. Let me do it like this. And this is, of course, the 24-hour clock. And you can do it in a number of ways, whichever makes sense to you. Let me input this. It doesn't really matter. The point is that I have successfully created a scheduled task. And we see now that this heading here has right below it this keyword called scheduled, and next to it, it has this timestamp. And org has two different types of timestamp. We don't need to go into the technicalities, but basically, it's the timestamp with the angled brackets, the active timestamp. So this means that it will appear on your agenda for that day. Let's go and do another task just so that we have that. And let's say pay the bills, whatever. And this is for home. And let's say that this is a deadline. And I will do mx org deadline. And again, we see inside of parentheses the key binding that corresponds to this command. For now, I will do it using mx. And we get the exact same interface. No difference whatsoever. The only difference is that this is a deadline instead of scheduled, but we will get to that. So let's say that this deadline is for today at 20 hours. Always local time. So it is creating this, and you will notice, as I said, that this is a deadline. Strictly speaking, it doesn't matter if something is scheduled or deadline, it will still show up on your agenda. But the words have different semantics, and I think you will benefit if you make a workflow out of these different semantics. So if your workflow is consistent with what these words mean. So let's now see the org agenda, and then I will tell you more about the workflow. So I will do again Emacs org agenda here. And what I now want to do is hit the letter A, lowercase a, which will be the daily or weekly agenda. So I hit A, and now I get to see the tasks in a timeline kind of view. So this is where we are now, and this is what I have later today, and this is what I have tomorrow, and then Saturday and Sunday are empty, and I can see further up in the agenda. The previous days were empty as well. This is the third week of the year. You get the idea. About the difference between deadline and scheduled. So, as I said, this is mostly a matter of semantics. There can be some technical difference as well, but mostly it is semantics. The way I treat those is that deadline is something that is not negotiable. So if I have to pay the bills at this time on this day, I have to do it by then. It cannot be, oh, I will do it next week or next year or whatever. It has to be exactly when it is stated. Whereas scheduled is kind of a gentle nudge that, hey, things should be happening, but even if they don't, it's not the end of the world. Nothing bad will come out of it. For me, specifically, when it comes to meetings, I always do a deadline. So it's not scheduled, it's a deadline. So I will just write deadline here manually because that's totally fine. And the reason it is a deadline is because of this time sensitivity, which is really strict. If I am meeting with somebody, I cannot just show up half an hour earlier and expect to have a meeting, or half an hour later for that matter, and expect to have a meeting. I have to be exactly on time. And so it's this extra sensitivity to time that I think the word deadline denotes, whereas scheduled is more open-ended in that regard. So this is how I use them. Now, an important thing to consider. Let's go here to our tasks. Let's say that I have some wish list items. So for example, I want to rewrite org mode, okay? And this is a really ambitious task, but I am really feeling it, so I will have it here. And then I also want, now that I am in the flow, I also want to rewrite all of Emacs. Rewrite all of Emacs, okay? So I am really feeling it. But the problem, when you are really feeling it, right? When you hype yourself up, the problem is that now you are in the flow of the excitement and you are not really paying attention to whether you can actually do all this in a timely fashion or when you declare that you wish to do it. So imagine that I have written these and I have this notion that every task should have a time slot and my day should be really regimented so that now I work on this, then I work on that, then I work on the other, and every single moment is covered with some task. I think this won't work. So let's do this with a key binding now. So let's say that this is scheduled for 17 hours, and because I am really feeling it, this is scheduled for 19 hours, like this, okay? Let's go back to our agenda. And now what happens is that as you write those wish list items, they start crowding out the actually time sensitive tasks. So if I have to pay the bills and it really has to happen when I say it does, I have to pay attention to this. But if I am adding all this noise in my agenda view, what will eventually happen is that I will miss the actually time-sensitive task. Because then I'm like, you know what? It's all noise here. It's all wishful thinking. So probably there is nothing useful here. And I will not pay attention to what I should be paying attention to. So I strongly encourage you to never, ever um, put your wish list on the timeline or on the daily or weekly agenda. If this is just wishful thinking, leave it like that. Leave it like this, and maybe add the wish tag to it. So whenever you have free time, you can do the agenda view that I showed earlier with the letter M, search for wish, and there you have it. Start working on those projects over here. But don't allow your wishful thinking to become your enemy so that you accumulate tasks with arbitrary dates, arbitrary timestamps, which eventually crowd out the time sensitive tasks. This is the idea. Let's go back here, folks. So I have accumulated a lot of tasks, and I already explained that you can filter them. Let's actually see this also in the agenda for completeness. I have one for home, one for work, okay? So I will type the /, and let's say I am interested in only the tasks about home, and org will do the right thing. So it's the same that I showed earlier. No need to explain this further. So let's remove the restriction and go here. So at some point you have written your tasks, but you start working on them. So you want to mark as done those which you have completed. For example, let's say that I did this video with org now. I can go here and mark it as done. This is the idea. So let's actually, now that I have marked it as done, let's actually go and do a search for org. And let me bring up this agenda here. And now I will type the letter T, list of all to-do entries. So these are tasks that are pending. They have not been done. So I will do T, and now I don't see the task that I have done. If you notice, and if I filter by org, it's easier if I do that, there is only one task which is org and which is to do. If I come here and I mark this as to do again, and I generate this buffer anew, you see that my tasks are here, right? So they are two. So as soon as I mark it as done and I get into the agenda view, I no longer see a done task. This is the idea. This is only for me to quickly gain access to my pending tasks, the to-do things, and not the done. And because of this view, I don't have to worry that, oh, I have a lot of done things here. Like, it doesn't matter, because you are not viewing your tasks through the source file. You are viewing them through the agenda views, and here you come only when you need to write something. This is the idea. You can write the done and to do and all these, you can write them manually. But there is also another command, which is a nice command, Emacs org to do. And I will show you why this is nice. Org to do, okay? But first, let me do it here so that we see here. So we have the to do. And I will do, org to do. This is the idea. And you see the key binding again inside of parentheses. So I will invoke this command. And what this will do is it will give me the option to select among my pre-configured keywords. And it gives me a key associated with those keywords. This is part of one's configuration. I will show you some configuration later. And if you are watching this on the video hosting platform, I will include that configuration on my website. And I will include a link in the description so you can find it there. Let's say I want to mark it as done. So I will hit the letter D here. And what it has done now is it has marked it as done, and it has done some more work here. Let's not worry about this for now. We will see it a bit later. So this is nice, but let's see this here. If I mark something as done manually like this, you see I have done and I have two to-dos. Let me add some more space so that we can see it. I have done one, and there are two more to go. But you will notice here that my counter hasn't been updated. And this is because I did it manually. So if I do it manually here, I have to go back to the counters and do Control C, oh, sorry, Control C for them to be updated. But if I don't want to do this manually and then manually go to the counters and update them, I can do the org to do, which again, as I said, Control C, Control T. I can do this, and then I will mark it as done. And now org has done two things. It has marked it as done, and it has updated the counters. So I can go and mark these as done as well, and I am good to go. And you see now the whole task is completed. So that's really nice like this. Um, as I said, we have these special thingies over here, which we will see right now. So let me go to the scratch buffer. And I have some configuration over here. This is the default configuration. These are the default values, what I have in this region. And I want to show you how they work. And I want to show you why I personally do not like them. I don't think they are good defaults. But of course, this is just my opinion. You don't have to listen to me. But anyway, let's go and see them in action. Um, Maybe I can have them on the side, and let me see where is the scratch buffer, but I need to see where I am. 1 second. Let me see here in the video. Of course, how am I supposed to know this? Maybe I can make myself a bit smaller here, folks, so that I am sure that my face there isn't blocking the view here. So hopefully it's not blocking too much, but we are focused on this. Hopefully it's showing there. I cannot test now, so it's impossible for me to know. So let's hope it does. Um, let's start with this one. When you are editing in org, when you are editing a heading or a list item, you can at any point hit meta return. So let me write it here. Like this is a heading. You can type meta return, and this is a new heading. And what org will do is it will automatically create a new item of the same type at the same level. So this is level 2. And if I do meta return, another level 2, okay? This is the idea, and so on for every level. And actually, this works if you do the list items. List item, and if I do meta return, another item on the list, okay? This is the idea. Now, with the default headings, with the default settings, if you do here, let's come here. I have a heading here. This is the heading. And if I am, let's say, somewhere here, and I type meta return, what org will do is it will split the heading I had and use the text to the right of the cursor to create a new heading with it. And for this to be the default, I guess people like it. For me personally, this never makes sense because my headings are concise, they are straight to the point, they describe their task, and thus there seldom or never is a case where some following text accurately describes a yet to be written task. So for me, I don't understand why I would need this. So for me, meta return, which I will evaluate here, should never split the line. So let me go back to this scenario. If I do meta return here, it should just do the right thing of what meta return does, which is create another item of the same type, and this is another heading, okay? This is level 1 heading. This is the idea. On the same topic, here we have what is about respecting content, and let's see this. So I have written my task here. I spent a lot of time to write it, and I have explained what this task is about in the text below the heading. This is the idea, okay? And now I will go here. Let's dismiss this. Or we can keep it, but no, let's dismiss it. So I will go here and I want to do meta return, okay? But if I do now meta return, let's see what happens. Org has created a heading right below the current heading, and the text I had, which was associated with the previous heading, now becomes the text of the new heading. And for me, again, in terms of workflow, this makes no sense. Like, in a real world scenario, I have spent a lot of time to write this thing down. It could be several paragraphs here. And I am just obliterating all that relationship that I had, that relationship, I mean, between the heading and the paragraphs, to just insert a new task. And for me, or a new heading. And for me, this again isn't how I would do my workflow. Like, why wouldn't I want to respect, as we see here, to respect what my text is there? So when I do meta return, it respects the content. So it keeps it exactly where it is and it writes below. This is what I want so that I can add a new heading. Oh, sorry, what happened? I hit something. So add a new heading. This is the idea. So this is about it working. As I said, I will include this configuration on my website, so you can find it there. So even if my view now is blocking a part of it, don't worry. You will copy it from my website. Now let's see about logging. I just want to make sure that I have evaluated the defaults. You can log information. So for example, if I do Control C, Control T, which is to mark something as with a keyword, I will mark it as done. And what org has done now, it has, because of some configuration I have, it has marked the change from to do to done. And if I do this again and hit W, it updates like this. And if I do it again, it is doing it like this, right? So it records the state changes. This is fine. I like this feature, but personally, I want to see these as separate from my actual work. So for example, if I am doing this here, let's do it here. You see now already what the problem is. So I had my paragraph here, the text I wrote, the nice things I wrote, and now I have this automatically generated text polluting my file. So I don't want this. So what I want, I have it over here, is I want org to log this state, to log it in what is known as a drawer. So let's see this again. I will mark this as to do, and I will do Control C, Control T, and then the letter D. And now it has created this logbook, and it is foldable with tab. And now it will include all the state changes inside of that. So I am changing the states, and you see how it is right now, right? And so tab, and now it's tagged in the logbook. It's nice, it's tidy, and I can review this information if I want. Of course, if you don't want to log this, you can skip that step. I think it's not a bad idea to log things, but if you do log them, do it in a drawer. This is the idea. And finally, on the point of logging, let me just show you here this over here. I include here a comment which you must read, and this part over here you can evaluate by going to the closing parenthesis and doing Control X, Control E, and this will take you to the manual where you will read more about these to-do keywords. Here I just have the sequence of keywords, and I have a special character next to them, which the manual explains, this exclamation mark. And what this exclamation mark means is that when you set the current keyword, also log the timestamp of when the change occurred. This is the idea. On the topic of keywords here, you can be really elaborate and have all these state changes and keep track of everything. I did that, And eventually I realized that it wasn't good for me. It was too complex and it didn't make sense. And I reduced the amount of keywords, the number of keywords, to 3. Actually, I don't have a weight. I have this. My setup is this. But I think when you are collaborating with people, when that is part of your workflow, having a weight keyword makes sense because you are delegating a task to somebody, and then basically you did your part and you are waiting for feedback to basically resume the task or whatnot. Cancelled or done, they are self-explanatory. The idea is that a task might be done or it might be done or finished by virtue of being cancelled. So you want to have that. And the bar character over here signifies what is to the left, the to-do state, and what is to the right, the done state, or the state of waiting for things to happen and the state of things have happened, if you like. Finally, the last two things of the configuration are those over here. Your tasks should go in one or only a small set of files. You don't need to have a million files for your tasks. A tasks.org is usually enough. If you need another file for some special reason, create another file. That's totally okay. But the idea is that you want to add those files in your org directory, which here I have assigned to a temporary file path. But of course, you would want to add somewhere that makes sense, such as in your documents folder. And then the final thing is that you want to tell org where are your agenda files. And this is a list of files, and you could do something path to file 1, and maybe then a path to file 2, and so on. But you don't actually have to do this, because if all your files are in the org directory, you just do this. I want to only list the files in the org directory, and these are my org agenda files. And this is the idea. A final thing, and then I am closing with that. Let me go to my tasks.org file. So here. And I will create another file just for the sake of completeness. So let's call this home.org. It doesn't really matter, but it's just an example. And here I will create a task. So let's say that I want to fix the computer setup, whatever. I'm just making things up, okay? And let's say that this has a deadline for this night. Let me go now back to the agenda view. I will see here, you see this task is over here. You will notice on the side here, we have the source, like where is this coming from? This is coming from home, this is coming from tasks. This is the idea. And just as you can filter by keyword, you can also filter by file. For example, if I do /, you will notice that tasks is one of the options. Even though it's not a tag per se, effectively it is a tag here. It is a predicate by which to filter. So if I do tasks, I only see tasks that are in my tasks.org. And the same idea, you remove the restriction and you are back to this. When you are, sometimes you will have a file that is long like this. So, and you want to give it an alias. Let's say I want to call it something different. So I will call it, home affairs, whatever. Okay, so I did this. You do it by writing the category like this. So if I go and I produce the agenda again, sorry, I have to go back and do Emacs org mode restart. I have to restart org for it to read the category. And now let's do the agenda. You see now that it is the new word that I wrote over there. So of course, as you can imagine, you can remove this, and in its stead, you could put some emoji. Let's put the unicorn, for example. And then let's see this. Of course, I have to restart the org mode. And now we get to see the emoji over there. So you can make your agenda a bit more fancy, a bit more cute. This is the idea, folks. Keep it simple. There are many more things you can do, but don't overthink it. And as you work with this and you get in the flow, you will eventually find areas that you can streamline, that you can improve, that you can make small or large changes to. But start small because there is a lot. And if you start with something hugely complex, really complex, a behemoth of a configuration, you will eventually get lost. You won't understand anything. And either you will just keep using it without knowing how to tweak it, or you will just abandon it. So start small and step by step refine your setup. That's all for today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care and goodbye from my side. And I have to go find OBS. So bye bye.